Hello and welcome to Moonshot, a show by Peak 15 that profiles innovative startups and inspiring founders and thought leaders who are dreaming big, making an impact, and driving change across the region and beyond. We hope this podcast will give you fresh ideas on how to start and scale an enduring company. It was 2010 and Chih-Han Yu was in the final year of his PhD at Harvard. He'd already authored dozens of research papers in artificial intelligence, robotics, and machine learning. One evening, on his way home from his lab, he experienced a moment that made him realize he wanted to take AI to the masses. 2 years later, together with his co-founders Joe Su and Winnie Lee, he launched Appier, an AI-powered platform that helps brands and retailers predict consumer behavior and improve their decision-making. On this episode of Moonshot, Peak 15 Managing Director Abik Anand chats with Chih-Han about his startup aha moment, how he built a software company in a place famed for hardware, and the challenges he faced building Appier before AI became a buzzword. This conversation was recorded at Surge, our rapid scale-up program for early-stage startups.
I'm thrilled to introduce Chih-Han, but before introducing Chih-Han, I want to share with you guys some context on how Chih-Han and us met. This month, we have entered our 10th year of our partnership. So we actually partnered with Appier in early 2014. So this is our 10th year, and Chih-Han will tell you guys more about what he's building, or what he has built over the last decade and more. The company is now a listed company on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. Chih-Han, who was the original founder and co-founder and CEO, is still the co-founder and CEO. His other co-founders, Winnie and Joe, are still with him as well. So, I think we often talk about, the journey of a founder really from idea to IPO and beyond. And one of the things we always talk about is how founders scale in their own personal journey as their business scales as well. And I would say like Chih-Han is probably one of the best examples I can think of, who has really scaled his own personal development as well, as he has evolved from being, an incredible technical leader to now an incredible CEO of a public company. So we'll go over all of these things, but I want to share with you a few data points. I was reading the original memo that we wrote for the Appier investment, which, Chih-Han, you have not seen that memo. So it's very interesting, actually, guys. So we partnered with Appier, where we led the Series A in 2014. This was actually one of our first investments in the region. And we literally met Chih-Han and Winnie and Joe in some casual conversations as they'd started a business which was building a gaming business. Both Chih-Han and Joe were at Harvard. Chih-Han graduated with a PhD from Harvard. And around the time when we invested, they had just transitioned from that gaming business into building a company that was, broadly in the marketing and advertising software space. And they were using their knowledge of AI back in 2013, saying that, hey, we can actually predict conversions better than most other people can. And this is a better way for brands and marketers to target their audiences than what they can find elsewhere. So one of the interesting things that came out of that conversation for us in hindsight was we were like, hey, this is an incredible AI team. AI is probably going to be big in the future. We should partner with them. Obviously, now is a very interesting time to be saying that because AI is one of the biggest trends that we are seeing. The other thing I noticed in that memo was, as in all these memos, we talk about, where the company is today and where the company can be in the future. And, we did the math and we said, hey, the company was about $1 million of revenue run rate, maybe $1.5 million back then. And I was looking at our own models, and our own models, Chih-Han, in the out years had the company getting to just about $100 million in revenue. How much did you guys do last year? And can you talk about how much you'll do this year?
Yes, I think last year we did, it's in Japanese yen, I think 19.6 billion Japanese yen, translate probably 150 million US dollar. And this year we are guiding somewhere around 26 billion Japanese yen, roughly 200 million US dollar.
I think this is a massive privilege we've had seeing this business scale. It's amazing, talking to Chih-Han, he's not just talking about next year, but he's thinking not just about 2023, but also about 2025 and beyond. And so, sometimes when we meet founders in the very early days, it's very hard to imagine what companies can become over a long period of time. But Chih-Han, I'm going to stop talking and turn it over to you. And maybe a good place to start is, Just talk a little bit about the founding journey. And actually, I think there's many interesting things about the founding journey. You started the company with your wife. You started the company when you guys were in the US. It's a deeply technical founding team. There's so many interesting things about it. Tell us more about the founding journey.
Oh, thank you, Abhi. I think as a founder, never get yourself constrained or people set a boundary around you. Then, a bit about our story. So I was actually an AI scientist for almost 10 years, between 2000 to 2010. Most of my work was about applying AI in robotics and medical devices. And also I had privileged to join the maker of self-driving car back in 2004. And that car eventually became currently what we call Waymo in Google. And the reason that we started a company is around 2010. I still remember I was about graduating from PhD. Frankly speaking, I spent a lot of energy in the last few years of my PhD just to get a lot of publication, and I will be able to be look very attractive on the job market to get a professor job. And I was about start an interviewing process for faculty job, and I was driving toward the garage of my apartment, and I parked my car, and then I feel, wait a second, we have built a self-driving car like 6 or 7 years ago. Why am I still driving myself? Then I start pondering all the things I have done in the last 7 or 8 years around AI, and calculate when that technology or innovation can be impactful or can be even used in people's daily life. And I found that likely to be in 20 to 30 years. Some of the project I did back then was just too early, and it takes like 20 to 30 years to become mature or make people to be able to accept such concepts, such as the self-driving car. Still, we are still driving. Most of people are still driving themselves and ourselves. And so then, because you can imagine that one young researcher about starting his career, but he is projecting all his work will only be impactful for people after he retires. So I don't want to waste my life just like that. So that's what the background to start a company. And with one area that we really want to focus, just make AI impact in the world. And this is very different from like the textbook founder story. Usually you need to solve some problems, and then you see some clear problems or clear demand, then you use technology to solve it. I think that's a much better way, a smoother way to start a company. But we just want to use AI to drive innovation and impacting the world. And then we start thinking about what kind of idea can really impact business now rather than later. Because we didn't actually start with the demand and problem, so that actually made us pivot for so many times. And it's one thing that we also feel fortunate was because AI was too early on, there were not people actually involved in AI innovation or building any AI related product. So we had time to pivot and also learn ourselves what kind of application can be acceptable and also can be welcome to a market. And the first product we did was what we call, currently there's a name, it's an AI metaverse engine. So basically, I would say it's a game company. I would try to say it's not a game company, it's a metaverse game company. So we built a game engine that allows the avatar to learn how the operator interact in virtual world and eventually be able to interact and behave of a real human being. That was the first product, at least 15 years earlier. That was a big value. And we tried to sell to many different companies and platforms. And eventually one game publisher said that you guys, apparently you know data and you know AI, but why don't you just use your know-how and apply into consumer data behavior analysis? And I have a bunch of user data, and I just want to build a very simple game recommendations widgets that can recommend all my users the most suitable game for each of them. And we saw that it's just a recommendation engine. It's really, we feel like it's a really, really simple task. And we have built such a complex and so sophisticated engine, but you end up asking us to build something so simple. And we spent probably back in 2012 or 2013, like 2-day coding something we think quite straightforward, and then deliver result to the company. Then the companies, I still remember, the company still exists and still our customer. And then they come back to us like saying that, wow, your result is actually 2 times better than what we used to have. We were very shocked. And then we start asking what kind of methodology you usually use. Then we found that the methodology back then, the company usually use is really outdated. They just use so simple rules and simple statistics. And we found that maybe this is something we really can contribute to the whole ecosystem. Tell people to use their consumer data and then make the best of use of it. So we pivot our company from a metaverse AI engine to this AI-based consumer behavior prediction platform. So that was the starting point of Appier. Yeah, I've been fortunate to start with my 2 roommates, actually. One roommate is Joe. Joe is a real roommate that I stayed with back at Harvard University. The other is Winnie. We date and then we co-found company together. Not like we 3 are founding a company, then I start dating with each other. We already know. The reason I invite Winnie to join a company is like because we were so our funding is so constrained. I'm trying, with very limited funding that we have, we are trying to recruit someone really, really smart and really can help us to handle operation. I can only think of Winnie, and I tried to convince her to join our company. But she was she has done great in immunology and published even in publication, even in Nature. So she was about to become an immunologist, but she was convinced by me to join the company in our year 2. So that's our founding story. And we pivoted many times. We didn't go out for fundraising, pretty much use our saving to bootstrap the company. We are almost burned out all the saving that we had accumulated for the last few years. And so that was a turning point that we found that our product can be useful for company. And then we start from getting some individual projects and then eventually build platform and bootstrap from that. We're literally only 2 months away from shutting down our company to find our final product market fit.
Thanks, Chih-Han. I mean, you said a lot of things in there. One, obviously, you worked on the self-driving car projects before they even were known outside in the non-academia world, in the world outside of academia. You worked on a version of the metaverse before metaverse was even a word that was used outside.
Yeah, I only got this word like last year. Yeah.
For folks who don't know, Winnie has a PhD as well in immunology, and so an incredibly technical team. And I remember Joe was winning sort of programming contests all over, and he was sort of a grad student at Harvard as well when you guys were starting off. So you guys really put together an incredible technical team. How does that work out for you guys? What was it like building a business in a part of the world with a team that was deeply technical, but in a part of the world that wasn't necessarily known for its software prowess?
Yeah, it's not a very obvious or any choice people will the path will take. Usually you'll find some busy people together and found a company in somewhere that you can use easy access to talent. But back then, because we sort of use first principle. So when we want to build a company, the first you need to have good technology and product. And because AI was not a very hot topic back then, and we didn't have sufficient funding to really build a technical team in Silicon Valley. But my co-founder Joe used to be a national programming team in Taiwan, so he knows all his teammates, including some of our current founding members still with our company. He felt that we can find great software engineers in Taiwan, and then we came back. But currently, I think the country is not, or a border is not really a constraint. You can build software somewhere and really ship your products anywhere. And we had last mindset as well. So I think back then, Apple just launched an app store. So a lot of people actually think that as long as you can put your app on the app store, you can distribute and resell everywhere. Technically, it's not. In reality, it's not like that. But if you can build a great product, then it will sell itself. We were so kind of naive and then think that it can be possible to be achieved by that. So that was the reason that we came to Taiwan and build a technical team and really build a product first, and then learn everything from product management and basic company operation. In the first few years after we launched product, it just skyrocketed, and we achieved more than 100 times of growth rate every year. So we didn't even need to care too much about sales. And at some point in time, scalability is an issue, and Appier really gave us advice that you need to really pick up how to run a scalable sales organization. So in each step of our startup journey, we might encounter some constraint or some capability that you currently don't have. That either, in our case, either we'll build ourselves, learn ourselves, use to self-study the subject. Sometimes we ask for experts' opinion. In some area that's very critical, then we hire someone really great to complement yourself. But a lot of times, if you don't have a basic knowledge, it's very hard even for you to identify the right talent to join your team. So having some basic understanding, basic background about each aspect of company is very important. So you will be able to identify the right talent to join a company and build a strong team.
Yes, yeah, and I think, and actually, I wanted to talk about sales, because I remember we've had so many conversations over the years about sales, and I remember when you started to first spend your own personal energy on sales, and within a matter of a few quarters and few years, I thought you became one of the best sales leaders in the company, because you really understood the customers and you really understood how to then scale sales organizations. But that's not a skill set you had when you started the company. That's right. And I think a lot of founders over here will also go through that learning journey where they have some strengths, but they need to kind of hire either for people to complement those strengths or learn things that they may not necessarily have as skill sets to begin with. Talk a little bit about that journey, and I think in particular in sales, because you built an enterprise software company. You're selling to large enterprises across the region. What was that journey like? I know we had some missteps in the early days, maybe some mishires, but over time, sales has become almost a strength for the company. How did you manage to do that?
Yeah, I think as a founder, and especially our company is found in Taiwan, I basically have, and our team, we basically have to learn everything from how to run an HR organization, how to run a financial organization, and how to run a sales organization, how to do marketing, pretty much every aspect. And along the way, I think sales is super important for enterprise software company, because even you build a very good software, you still need to distribute to a company and customers' hands, especially after prior to customers start using the product. You need to be able to have a process that be able to navigate a stakeholder. At the end, after customers start using your product, you also need to have customer success functionality in order to allow them to really feel the good return that by using your software. So this is very very long process. And I think in early days, as the founders, we had no choice. It was very hard for us to recruit a great sales leader. So we start by selling ourselves. And along the way, after we sell and we start getting some revenue and we got good investor, and then we start bootstrap and hire a slightly better sales team member to join. Then it's an iterative process that you grow your revenue a little bit, and then you are able to afford slightly better talent, and then you go to your next step and get even better talent to your team, and then really eventually build a very good sales organizations. I think for us to really start mastering sales is that we have a very good coach who used to run enterprise software organizations with, I think, more than 1,000 sales. And instead of bottom-up building up the process, he taught us how to top-down to look at the sales organization and how you should build from end result and then bootstrap and then also back calculate to the very first step and how to solve problem in each steps. And to run a sales organization is all about how to build a systematic process and how you can really log the right numbers, and also use those numbers to help you to scale the organization, and also use those numbers to guide your team and to replicate the capability that each of them should have. I think this is something that we have learned along the way. But as founders, especially found a company in a place that there's no software startup companies, we really have to learn everything from product management, even how to do international tax. If you build your own methodology and the way to learn things, it's not that different. Because when I did my PhD, it's all about study state of the art, how people do it, and then you try to improve a little bit. We just use that kind of methodology to study how to start a company. So, but sometimes you're also concerned by. I always remember you mentioned that you don't know what you don't know. But sometimes when you're in that situation, you don't know how people run a very scalable sales organization. You have never met such a person, then you probably, even you do a lot of research, you're also constrained by local optimal. So that is sometimes a pitfall of doing everything by self-study.
Yeah, and actually, we should talk about this topic because I think it's an important one. I think you touched on this topic of growth and learning through the founder's journey, and right. Obviously, you guys have seen a lot of that. Let's talk a little bit about this growth journey. And I think, I remember, one of the first conversations I had with Dr. Chen, actually, who's our chairman and who was previously one of the leaders of Google in Taiwan. And when he joined us, I remember talking to him saying, "Hey, why did you decide to join Appier?" And I think he joked and said that Appier was literally the only company in Taiwan that was able to poach engineers from Google, which is why he thought, maybe they have something interesting going on. And so clearly, engineering has been a massive strength for you guys. You've had, literally the who's who of engineering talent in Taiwan, including, professors from top universities join the team. But you guys have also done a really nice job of the things around it, including sales, marketing, finance. And I think one of the things that you alluded to in your previous answer was this idea of having a learning mindset, right? I mean, at the end of the day, a PhD is going through a journey of learning, which, candidly, many of those things involve things that maybe nobody knows of before, which is why it's a doctorate and it's actually venturing into new ideas. But you've really taken that mindset and applied it to learning about new things, whether it's transfer pricing or sales organizations, or sales planning, etc. How should founders think about this trade-off between learning things along the way, finding advisors, hiring people for these jobs? What have you seen that has worked for you guys? What has not worked? What are some tips that people can take away in terms of learning in their own founder's journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for us, it's all about, because we apply the experience that we had during PhD study, always learning from the best. So that's always a principle. But sometimes our company in the past was too small to access the best, but we try our best to access to that information. For example, currently it's much more. You can ask a lot of questions. Even you can ask questions around to ChatGPT, and then you can give some basic knowledge. But based on that, you can actually trace to who is the expert in that area and find out relevant information. And based on the concepts, or even have a short conversation with subject experts, and then to build that capability. For us, before starting a company, I pretty much only know AI and also mathematics and theories, and I pretty much have to build everything from product management to in every aspect of myself. But being able to self-study and get basic concepts around one subject is a very important first step. Then you up to the stage that you can identify who is experts. Then you can go out to talk to the experts. I think this is knowing who is a subject expert, and always try to chase the best people to even 5 or 10 minutes of time to help you to answer the most critical questions. Sometimes it's just directional questions. It can save you a lot of time. So we always use these kind of methodology to do it. And I also spend a lot of time doing interviews. In early days, in order to prepare to interview talent whose expertise is not in my area, I also study a lot of the subject that's relevant to that. But in the interview process, I can also learn a lot. And by interview a few talents, then you probably know 50, 60%. But eventually you find someone who really knows something you cannot find on internet. That is probably the talent that you should hire. And eventually this person join the team, then you can learn with this person on a day-to-day basis. I think that's the best part of being a founder.
I think one of the things that you've done very well, and I think great founders do very well, is they never slow down the rate of learning.
That's right.
It's easy to do that because you're working in a big organization. Now you're running a public company. But the fact that you need to sort of be close to customers, be close to employees, doing things like interviewing, doing things like making sure you're always upping the bar on talent helps everybody stay on their toes, and for your learning journey to continue at the same rate it was when you started. Chih-Han, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the next stage, because we talked about the founding journey. We talked about this idea of the growth journey where you've sort of learned from people, you've hired some incredible people, the business has started to scale. And now we get to the point maybe a few years ago where you started to consider taking the company public. And one of the things that that you guys have done very well, which I think is super relevant in today's environment, is always being very capital efficient. I've always been blown away by how you've always focused on revenue. You've always focused on building things frugally. And I think that comes from a culture. It's a cultural thing. It's where you guys have not raised a lot of capital. And then you started to consider going public. Talk a little bit about that thought process. What made you think that this was the right time to go list? What were some of the trade-offs? Now that you're a public company CEO for the last several years, what have you learned running a public company versus a private company? Give us a little bit of a flavor of those trade-offs.
I think roughly in year 7 or year 8, and it's up to the point that some people would want to offer to buy a company because we have certain proven scalability. And also we start asking ourselves, do we want to sell a company or we want to continue running the company? And we start having a sort of personal discussion around founders. It turned out that assuming that we sell a company and cash out everything, we really don't know what to do tomorrow. Eventually, we actually drove down to the continue running Appier is the best solution for our life, and then that's something we really want to do. And then we decide to go public, and it was actually also not a very straightforward process because Taiwan is a highway island, so there's almost no software company listed here. And NASDAQ is very far. We didn't even have US business, and we have business in Japan, Korea, and also South Asia. So we also have to get ourselves listed in somewhere that is not where most of people domicile. And where is the best place to be listed is also a very long discussion. For us, is we decide what kind of life you want to have. I think selling a company at the right stage is also a very good choice because that conclude your journey and then you can start from the next. And in our case, we simply feel that continue to building this business is the best choice for us. And everyone can have different choices. If you build your company to a certain stage, you also and sell a company, that's great too, because you get yourself rewarded for the product that you have built, and you can join the bigger organizations, and then you can start another innovation. And being a public company CEO is not easy. Actually, I asked one of the first few questions I asked ChatGPT is, what's the difference of running a private company CEO and versus a public company CEO? It gave a great answer. Being a public company CEO, you will get more scrutiny out of public markets, and then you have to give fulfill a promise and a prediction with a much more precise way. But at the same time, your company, because of this process, your company also become more robust, and your personal can also learn more. I think the answer is so perfect, exactly match what we have experienced. And being a public company CEO, that means that the company is public, it's not yours. And you really have to be socially responsible and give people visibility and about what revenue you can deliver and what profit you can deliver, and also fulfill the promise. And then at the same time, you also have to make sure everything you do is compliant legally and also internal rules. And also build very good organization structure that can support the continuity of a company that can sustain for generations. Because you have to think that company is a public property, not just your own property or your founder's property or your employee's property. You have to think that company need to go sustain for very long terms, and almost think about the company can operate autonomously even without you. What Sequoia always mentioned, to build into a sustaining business for generations. Of course, for a young public company, probably you cannot get to that stage within a very short period of time, but along the way, you have to build that kind of infrastructure to achieve that. I think being a public company as probably CEO is probably one of very initially challenging, but also rewarding learning experience for us in our entrepreneurship journey. But we are very glad to have many good partners, including my co-founders as well as investors such as Sequoia Capital to help us.
Chih-Han, it's been an incredible journey. I'm going to ask you one last question. You talked about the founding journey. You talked about the pivots that you did. When you were in the US, when you guys were just getting the team put together, getting Winnie to join you, and this sort of, I would say, the journey of like going from zero to product market fit and a little bit beyond that. Then there was that scale up journey where you talked about hiring the right people, building the right team, learning things that you may not have learned before, finding advisors, finding board members, getting to a point where the company was scaling at the right pace. And now we talked a little bit about being a public company and the challenges and opportunities that you guys are facing as that. And you're well into a decade into this journey, and hopefully there's many more years ahead. But talk a little bit about two things. One, what have you personally enjoyed the most? Which stage did you enjoy the most? And then secondly, what did you wish you'd known over the last several years, that if you had to go back and tell yourself at any point, what would you tell yourself? I'm
still most interested in product innovations. So whenever there's a great product design and or product brainstorming sessions, being someone from a product background, I really enjoy it. And then if there's involves some technical brainstorming, I think that part is still most enjoyable part of my daily life. And I think also leading a team or identify some great talent can lead a team to solve very challenging tasks, and then being able to find great leaders or in certain area that can really help our company scale. I think that's also the most enjoyable moment for me. Along the way, our founding journey is not so easy, because initially the first few years, AI is not a thing. So nobody really interested in what we do. But we persist. Our parents always hint us like you probably should get a real job. So I think there are a lot of moments that you can really become really doubtful about what you are doing. But I'm glad that I don't need to have a future myself to tell me to persist, because my co-founder always give us as a team, give us very strong belief to persist and also continue this path. And we also feel incredible fortunate that AI took off starting, I think, 2015. People really focus on it. Now I think people even getting more interested in AI applications. So I think starting as an AI scientist or AI engineer, I could not be more fortunate to have this opportunity to really experience this period of time and really build a business to help our customers and also help our employee to achieve what they cannot achieve before. So I'm someone always looks up things that inform me. As a founder, really hardly we go back to think what has happened before. But if I have a chance to tell myself, I would just encourage myself to keep going. But I'm glad that my co-founder back then we already built a very strong belief to keep going.
You're saying, Chih-Han, that the AI might not have been like a a hot area back then almost seems hard to imagine right now because there's so much activity going on in that space, and you guys are in the thick of things. And I know you're exploring many new ideas and many new products that you guys are going to launch. So hopefully this this itch to be a part of innovative product design is continuing to be addressed even as a public company CEO, because you have so many new things that you guys want to be launching. We always talked about it as a great example of how does one build a high performing technical organization. I think you guys have done an absolutely incredible job of that. And with that, Chih-Han, I think we should wrap here. But thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you everyone.
You've been listening to Chih-Han Yu, co-founder and CEO of Appier, in conversation with Abhik Anand, managing director here at Peak 15. I'm Dewi Fabri, and for more interesting startup stories, visit our website, peak15.com, or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.